What do you mean we're not going back to Texas tonight? Trace Kogan spared Marissa a quick glance before returning his attention to the road, his eyes scanning their surroundings, both what was in front and behind him, which at the moment was blessedly nothing. Not a single car accompanied them on the darkened road as they drove away from the fiery blaze lighting up the night sky. It means exactly that, he explained, doing his damnedest to keep from expressing just how irritated he was. Not at Marissa per se, but definitely at the situation they'd found themselves in. Exactly what? Trace didn't bother to elaborate. Adrenaline still trickled through his veins, making him sweat despite the frigid temperature. His heart was finally beginning to resume its normal rate, and soon he'd be back in control. That hadn't been the case a few short minutes ago when he'd been dragging Marissa out of that fucking house. His heart skipped a beat at the thought of what could have happened had he not been there. He cast another look her way, taking her in from head to toe once more just to assure himself that she was alive and well, although a little pissy at the moment. He could deal with pissy, but he couldn't deal with dead. From the instant Marissa had appeared in the doorway of the safe house, everything in Trace's entire world had unilaterally centered on her. Everything he heard, everything he saw, everything he smelled. Getting her to safety had been his one and only goal. And now, as he eased the Escalade onto the empty freeway, he simply wanted her to be quiet for a few minutes. He needed to decompress before she pelted him with a million questions, which, no doubt, she would. If we're not going back, where are we going? She asked, clearly frustrated. He knew how she felt. He was equally frustrated. A motel. You've got to be kidding me. A motel? Why can't we go to the airport? No flights out. Okay, fine. Why can't we drive through the night? I'm not even tired. If you need a nap, I can drive. Trace glared over at her, only to find Marissa returning his stare with sheer determination in her glistening, ice-blue gaze. She looked haggard and, despite her claim, tired. Her usually silky golden hair was a mess of tangles around her face. Her fair skin was chapped from the harsh wind. The deep purple shadows beneath her eyes said she hadn't slept in days. Her lips... Okay, he was not going to focus on her lips, or the fact that she was still the most beautiful woman he'd ever laid eyes on, even when she'd been dragged from a rigged house, thrust into the below-freezing temps in her pajamas, past a couple of bullets. Nope. He wasn't going to think about any of that shit right now. Trace? Not gonna happen, he told her, keeping his eyes on the road. We're not heading back tonight. Why not? He half expected her to stomp her foot and pout, but this was Marissa Trexler. As spoiled as he'd accused her of being in the past, he knew that wasn't exactly true. Hard-headed, yes. Spoiled, not so much. Because I said so, he told her. Now could you please be quiet for 5 minutes? Marissa huffed, but she did as he asked. Focused on their surroundings, Trace pushed the Cadillac Escalade as fast as he dared in the icy conditions, desperate to get them to their destination before they garnered a tail. However, in order to ensure they didn't, he figured a few evasive maneuvers were needed. Might add a little additional time to their drive, but he figured it was necessary. Not that he was too worried about the guy who'd been in Marissa's house when Trace had entered via the back door. That poor bastard wasn't going anywhere. Ever again. But in Trace's experience, these jackasses didn't act alone. And that was the sole reason they were heading west on I-84. It would have been a hell of a lot easier to get to the closest airport and figure out the itinerary.